And we are live.
Good evening. It's Monday, July 11th, and this is the regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning meeting. If everyone would stand and recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Shirley, have you had the opportunity to call the roll?
I did take roll. Everybody is present, but Paula Noble, and she will be absent tonight, but you do have a quorum.
Okay. Do we want to go ahead and do the consent agenda or go ahead and, or swear, check in?
It doesn't matter. I think it might be appropriate to go ahead and do the oath of office. I just put it second because I'm used to having.
Okay. Do you, Chuck Davis, solemnly swear that you possess all the qualifications of the office of Planning Commissioner and of the state of Missouri, the provision of all laws of this state affecting cities of this class, and the ordinances of the city of Kearney, Missouri, and faithfully demeanor yourself in office, so help you God?
I do.
Just sign that for me, please. Thank you very much.
Thanks for agreeing to sit on the board again. Well, we'll go ahead and now deal with, or the next item is the consent agenda, which consists of the approval of minutes from June 13th. Do we have any discussion?
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda then is new business, 4A Hacker Acres replat, final plat. David, do you have a report for us?
Yes, I have it marked as new business, but Hacker Acres was originally scheduled last month. We just didn't get to hear that case. Dan Hacker with American Lawn Landscapes in the audience, well, via Zoom. He's here via Zoom. Hopefully he can hear us pretty well. It looks like he's sitting outside. Hacker Acres replat of Lot 1 final plat. Dan Hacker with American Lawn and Landscapes proposes to subdivide 28 acres into 2 lots. Properties located at the southwest corner of 92 Highway and Jesse James Farm Road. I'd like to maybe go to the plat and share the screen. Sorry, I've got to move things around so that we can do that. Right, so there's a copy of that plat drawing. Lot 1A is the southern portion of the property. Lot 2A would be the northern portion of that property. It's been a few years, but the Planning and Zoning Commission approved a preliminary plat for Hacker Acres development. Phase 1 covers essentially Lot 1A at the bottom portion of the property, and that was going to be the location of American Lawn Landscapes. They did a site plan for a new building and landscape materials and trees and things like that, a retail shop. The northern portion was identified as future development with 9 lots and an interior street that went through that property. The 2 proposed lots are a little bit different than what was shown on the preliminary plat. On Lot 1A, the eastern portion of the now proposed lot was part of the Phase 2 area. So he's extended Lot 1A all the way to the east property line. City water is available along Jesse James Farm Road. Sanitary sewer was not available. He extended a force main to serve the property, and that allows the split of that property that we see today. The property was in District 6 water boundary, so as part of the subdivision of property or issuance of building permits, there will be a fee that needs to be paid to Water District 6. City engineer requested a drainage easement across Lot 1A. On this particular version, I just copied over what we had last month. It doesn't show it, but they did add an easement through the middle of Lot 1A around where the label for Lot 1A is. There's a drainage area that kind of runs through that property from north to south. Actually, it drains property even on the north side of 92, and it comes through that property. The engineer did ask that when they do Phase 2 development that they resubmit stormwater drainage report in case there's a need for detention or something like that as part of that development. The easement is basically just to allow drain through of water that goes through the property already. Because Lot 1A extends all the way to the east property line, there will be a need to add a 35-foot landscape buffer. Property to the east is zoned residential. So staff will ask that they resubmit a site plan that has the landscape easement and proposed landscaping on that updated drawing. I think I list that as a condition of approval. Staff recommends approval of the final plat with the following conditions. 1, submit a revised plat with the following items. Add a drainage easement on Lot 1A per city engineer with easement dedication language, which they actually do have. B, update the dedication and signature lines. C, any further revisions if necessary. 2, submit an updated landscape plan for the Lot 1A site plan. That'd be fine if that's updated as part of a building permit or something like that. Record the plat within 1 year and prior to a building permit being issued. 4, develop the site in compliance with all city codes, conditions, requirements, plans, and payment of fees and taxes. This application, final plat, will go to the Board of Aldermen for final consideration. And I'm going to share my screen. And Dan is in the audience if there are questions for the applicant. Are you able to hear okay, Dan? I think you're on mute.
Okay, now I'm off mute. Yes, I can hear. Thank you.
Do you have anything that you want to add to David's report before we start discussion?
I think everything sounds correct.
All right, thank you. Okay, do we have commission discussion then?
Just for clarification part on my end, we're only approving this 1A, 1A and 2A, not the further subdivision of 2.
Correct.
So it's basically the lot split.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It would have, the plan was maybe to do that a long time ago, but his original, if you remember, the original plan for sewer was to have a private system for his building.
Mm-hmm.
Then as part of phase 2, he would extend building to that sewer. He kind of shifted gears a little bit and thought, well, I might as well just do the public sewer now and not have to worry about reconnecting and getting rid of a system that he paid for to install. So time delayed a little bit, but he got the force main in, and it can serve both properties.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Westridge Business Center replat Lot 1A rezoned to MP Industrial Plan District with concept plan and site plan. David, do you have a report?
Yes, I do. I'm trying to move my screen a little bit. I might go ahead and share my screen on this as well. But we also have Google Earth. I thought everybody kind of knew from the plat drawing where the other property is. I'll share that. Sorry about that. We'll go to Google Earth on this one. Okay. Mark Riles, representing 69 Storage LLC, is in the audience today. Proposes to rezone approximately 2.95 acres of Lot 1A Westridge Business Center from M Industrial to MP Industrial Plan District. The lot, he came through a couple of months ago with a replat. There was a lot line that went through the middle of the property. We replatted the lot, moved the utility easement, then went through the middle of the property down to the south property line. Since that time, he's prepared his site plan and rezoning applications for submittal. Site's located at 425 Sandbar Drive on Google Earth. You can see it. The people out on Zoom can't see it, but if you follow Sandbar Drive north, just past First Missouri Bank on the east side of the property, or east side of the road is the property. On the north side of the property is Innovation Business Park. So this property is not part of Innovation Business Park. It's actually part of West Ridge Business Center, which is a strip of ground on the east side of Sandbar Drive that includes both of the banks and then the vacant properties on either side of them. The proposed plan, and that's what I'd like to share. Minimize and share our screen. The site plan layout. I think I'd like to use. Okay, so the plan proposes 7 self-storage buildings, and they're labeled 1 through 7. So 1 being the building on the north, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the south property line, and then there's a north-south building along the east property line labeled Building 7. The rezoning is proposed because elements of the plan vary from our self-storage requirements. We got some specific requirements for self-storage that include a 30-foot setback. That's kind of the key thing, is this 30-foot setback for all buildings, driveway aisles, access drives, and fencing. The plan proposes a 20-foot setback along the north property line for Building 1, a 10-foot setback for Building 7 along the east property line. The south building does meet the 30-foot setback requirement. A 10-foot setback for a fence located along the west property line. They propose a black, I call it wrought iron fence, but it's a black painted metal fence, decorative fence. And a 10-foot setback for 3 parking spaces. Parking spaces aren't really required by the code for something like this, but they have employees that show up to, maintain the property, mow, clean up trash or whatever. So they like to provide some parking spaces that are away from drive aisle, so they don't interfere with people getting in and out of the property. They do not label an ADA parking space, although an ADA parking space is required, so they do need to update the plan to add an ADA space. Also, the code requires, it reads to me like it requires a fence surrounding the entire property to keep people from getting in unless they go through a gate. As part of their plan layout, 3 of those buildings kind of serve as the barrier from outside property. So they only propose a fence on the west side. So I'm proposing that plan indicate that there's no required fence on any of the other directions. I think that code section was probably created thinking that the outer edge of the property or the development would always be a drive aisle, and in this case it's not. They use the buildings to help separate that from other properties. In the packet you'll see some sample pictures in an elevation sheet showing all metal beige buildings. I guess I can scroll down to the elevation sheet. It's shaped a little different, so it'll be a little bit hard to see. But it proposes all metal beige buildings with evergreen overhead doors, galvanized aluminum roof with evergreen trim around the edges, and then on the north side and west side of Building 1, so that's the northernmost building, they would include an evergreen wainscot on the north side and on the west side. On the southern building that is against the south property line, same thing, a wainscot facing the south direction and facing the west direction along Sandbar Drive. From the other buildings, buildings 2, 3, 4, 5, so those interior buildings, the street facing side would include overhead doors. So you'd see the evergreen door and then the beige around those doors. Code section 405170, I included a clip of some verbiage in your staff report, which I'm just summarizing my staff comments here. Calls for new structures to be of a high quality design and appearance to complement the neighborhood. In innovation, if this property is located inside innovation covenants would require at least 25% of the street facing buildings to include wood, stone, or brick veneer. And several of you have been on the planning commission for a while. We've seen that on a lot of the buildings. The newer buildings, they are mostly metal, but they generally include a brick wainscot on those front elevations. The bank has a facade that includes brick, a red brick, and a cream or off-white stucco. So staff had requested that we do some facade improvements at minimum, complying with innovation, but we also need to fit in with the bank property and maybe even the bank to the south, even though it's a little bit further. Basically, upgrade of facade improvement so that it fits in the neighborhood. Exterior lighting, we actually have a sample of the light here. There's pictures in your staff agenda that shows the proposed lighting. We do have a lighting code for exterior lighting that requires full cutoff or shielded lights so that we don't shine unnecessary light up into the air or out, and we direct it down, and to help prevent glare. I don't know if you've gone by a couple of locations like some of the older gas stations. As you drive by, you can see the glare at night because the bulbs stick down, and that's the purpose of that. I don't think that this particular light is shielded because it's got the, you can see the shield element on the front kind of sticks out, so it directs light in other areas. There's potentially, they have a shield that can cover that a little bit better. He's looking into an attachment. If not, then there might be a need to change the wall packs at least. Staff's asking that at least on the west edge of the buildings, either the lights that face to the west or the lights that maybe face north or south, but on the corners of the buildings, be the shielded or full cutoff type. If we get further into the property, then we've got the buildings that surround it and kind of block some of that glare from adjacent properties. You can have your light back.
Okay. Unless you want for the house.
I've been babysitting. It was been
Yeah,
sitting in
we've
my
got a
office.
bunch of them, I'm good.
There's a keypad entry at the gate. Our city engineer commented that that keypad looks like it's a little close to Sandbar Drive where a longer vehicle might stick out. We'd like to have that moved closer to the gate as far as possible so we can get, well, I think he commented a lot of the trucks are maybe 27-foot truck. If it's moved 10 feet from the gate, that gives you about 30 to 31 feet or so. So we want to get that moved. I didn't have that in my staff recommendation of changes to the plan. So I'm going to request that maybe that get added. Staff recommends that if the plan is approved today, that the P district plan include the following. Typically we say per the plan, and we identify what those variations to the standard zoning are. So reduce setback from 30 feet to 20 feet along the north property line. The request for reduced setback from 30 feet to 10 feet along the east property line. Reduce setback from 30 feet to 10 feet along Sandbar Drive for the fence and for the parking spaces. No additional fence required along the outer building elevations facing the north, east, or south. And additional revisions if recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission. 2, submit a revised concept plan / site plan for the following. Update the building elevations, identifying colors and materials. You don't really have that on the plan. Parking spaces to include one ADA compliant space with appropriate loading zone and signage. So they show 3 spaces. They'll actually have to be a little bit wider because there's a loading zone they'll have to add in. Probably, I think it's 8 foot wide loading zone. A little bit more asphalt. Update the exterior wall pack lighting specifications for shielded or full cutoff lights, at least along the west end or west corners of the buildings facing Sandbar Drive. Add the key box location to be moved further to the east for the city engineer, and additional revisions if recommended by P&Z. And we have some standard recommendations of approval. Provide adequate stormwater detention per city engineer review, which we think that they are. I think our engineers asked for some comments, but we'll get that clarified before a building permit would be issued. Emergency access is required by Kearney Fire and Rescue Protection District. So rather than a key box, there'll be a key switch, a little bit smaller, but it matches the other keys that they use to enter properties and buildings. Submit a building permit application prior to construction. Submit a sign permit application prior to installation of signs, and develop the project in compliance with all city codes, conditions, requirements, plans, and payment of fees and taxes. This application will be forwarded to the Board of Aldermen, scheduled for next week. There was a public hearing scheduled, and notices were posted in the County Courier this past Thursday, this coming Thursday, and notices were sent to property owners within 185 feet as well. Mark Rouse is in the audience if there are questions for the applicant, and I believe his, Mary Claire, his engineer, is also in the audience if there's some engineering related questions. I'm gonna stop share, but we'll leave that up on the screen if anybody needs to reference that.
So did I understand this is a public hearing?
Yes, it is a public hearing, it's a
Okay.
rezoning application, so
Okay.
we want to open the floor to public comment.
Definitely, okay, thank you. We'll go ahead at this time and open the floor to any comments. If you have any comments, step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Or if there's anyone on Zoom, you might raise your hand so we know that you're here to speak to this matter.
I didn't know if Mary Claire was going to do anything.
Yeah, she's on. There's nobody from the public, so we could probably close the public
Okay.
hearing portion and
Yeah.
just address applicant.
We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Mr. Rouse, would you like to
Sure.
say some?
You know, I appreciate y'all looking at this and David working with us on some different aspects of the project. I will try not to ramble on too terribly long. I know that we were talking about the setbacks a little bit. I know that they're pretty important in that additional, because originally when we started speaking about this property and we rezoned it in 2020, and correct me if I'm wrong, David, it's 10-foot setback in that industrial area back there in the park, I believe, except for Sandbar.
Yeah, no, we kind of label it, well, yeah, there's 20-foot side yard setbacks required in industrial, and I think it's a 25-foot.
Okay, we were just trying to, usually in storage, you can look around Kearney, Excelsior, or anywhere else, and you see that the aisles are out on the outside of every single storage building. We try to keep everything encapsulated for security. Our security at our facilities it's pretty decent, so we don't have any problems with anything at all as far as break-ins or anything as far as that goes. We do rent to we have a cleaner customer base that we deal with as well at those facilities. As far as the key access pad, I'm sure we can work with that and figure it out. I was trying to look at, I don't think the ADA parking space would be a problem at all, but I know that was one of the things is the setback on there. Making sure that that was okay with you all, what we were doing with it. Hopefully it is. I think we're matching the industrial park as a whole with what's surrounding us over there. The fencing along the front, I wasn't aware of that setback. I didn't know it was considered a structure. It is, depending on how we set it up, between a 6 to 7 foot wrought iron climb-proof fence that goes along the front there. But I think once the ornamentals and everything goes in, it'll be pretty nice. We are going to try to hold it as close as we can to the curb at the facility, but the underground water tanks or the holding tanks, the depth that they're at, we may not be able to drill 4 or 5 feet to put those in exactly where we want them, but we're going to try to make it look as nice as possible. And of course on the lights, David and I have talked about that. If we have to change to something that's downward, that's fine as well. I did send over 4 additional pictures before I came here to an email, just in case.
Included, and that look, I think you're talking about elevation.
It was about 15 minutes before this meeting tonight. There's an
Oh, I
email
didn't see that.
and there's actual pictures of the actual buildings in the light, exactly what they would look like, colors, trims, and everything on there. The one thing that I definitely wanted, there's a couple things that I was going to ask for. David and I had briefly talked about it. As far as the wainscoting goes, we'd like to keep it matched all the way around on the wainscoting on the base of those buildings. One thing that we're running into right now is a supplier issue through Nichiha. We actually have to go with something that doesn't have an organic material that would go on the base of those buildings, because if they're not climate controlled, if bugs and rodents could get in easily, they can demolish wood pretty quickly on there. Track Key does have an option. That's the wainscoting that they're showing on that elevation. It's an evergreen 4 foot tall that goes all the way around that would match. But if there's something stone or otherwise, When we build the buildings, we'll have to leave the bottom of the building off of there, and crossing our fingers that there's not a supplier issue, because they will not fire up the production line to, just build that material just for our facility. We're not big enough for anything like that. So I didn't know David, he wanted to match everything on the First Missouri Bank side, which I agree with. I want to make sure it matches all the way around, or just, I didn't know if there was any leniency with that. But anyways, any way we could go on that, but it would be great. The only other thing, and I did talk to Mary Claire, on the north and the south side, well, it's the north side of that building, the landscaping requirement, there's a lot of trees and everything to block everything well on the sides of those buildings. There's existing trees between the property to the north right now. I didn't know if we could use that as part of that buffer landscaping in some capacity. I'm not sure if anyone's here is aware of it, but that's where all your main fiber runs through. And as soon as we...
Potentially you can, if you can identify them. I think there's a minimum size requirement, and then
Yeah.
you need to know what type they are, like it's.
Yeah, I haven't really looked
no
at
bare
them.
trees, but there's potential to do that if there are existing trees that are.
I talked to Tim Harrison. He said he would be cool with it. Either way, he'd be fine with it. But we are a little skeptical about taking out trees. If we do dirt work in there, because there's I believe a trunk line that runs through there that runs all of Kearney's communications and everything else. And we're kind of warned about pulling stuff on that side.
I know there are utilities. You do show some grading there. If you look at this is the grading plan.
Yeah.
It looks like there's some grading you proposed in there.
Yeah,
so-
right where those trees are at in that area is where those lines are for that stuff. And if we are able to keep that, that would be great. My only part that I would be concerned about, just with some of my history, is putting a lot of trees on the north or south side with the shading and sunlight, with those being able to grow to maturity. And then if they didn't, or if there's too much shading, we're going to end up with no grass on each side. It's going to be extremely hard to mow, and it won't look nice. So, but we would make it look we'd make it look pretty nice. All of our facilities are extremely nice compared to what you see anywhere else. I don't think there's anything else, because I think you've hit on it, David. I don't really think there's anything on there. I don't know if Mary Claire had anything. She probably may have something from a different aspect. Oh, and I may throw this in there too. All of our facilities, they are closed at night. So we're only 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. That gate locks down. We don't have people hanging out at the facility all night long. Security's always live monitored, so it's not just recording. We actually have retired police officers that watch the streams, so we rarely have any problems. And there's usually someone there at the facility to make sure everything's going the way it should be going, so we don't have trash problems or anything like that. But that encapsulation of the facility, I agree with you all. Doors, we try to reduce how many doors that the public, is going to see. But on the end cap of the building, those doors that are there, we try to make it as nice as possible. But there's a lot of yellow shields and bollards and stuff that come up, and a lot of our communications equipment go with those end caps as well. So it's kind of tough to do any wainscoting or rock in those areas. But I think most of it's going to be shielded by the wrought iron fence and the ornamentals that are up front in front of the fence. So, but I'll leave it at that, because I could probably talk forever and you don't want to listen to me. So, but yeah, I appreciate your all's time, and I'll try to do as good as I can for the city. And I'm at these facilities every single day doing the work as well. So this is one of my clean days where I actually get to wear clean clothes. So, but yeah. Does anyone have any questions for me?
We'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, I had it fresh in my mind, so.
Thank
okay,
you.
Thanks.
All right, do we have some commission discussion?
Yes, I'm sure the board's aware of how I feel about changing our setbacks. These were all put into an ordinance for a reason. Matter of fact, we just had one not too long ago that was wanting to change a lot of the setbacks. And they went back and changed and came back to us because of how the board felt, or I know I felt that way. Now, if we have a problem with our setbacks, And the city staff needs to, let's get together and change them if we need to change them, or have special deals with them or whatever. But as of right now, we're supposed to follow what's on the ordinance on these setbacks. And if we change it for one person and it's on our books for changing it, where do we stop it down the road? I just feel like we have a problem there. If we don't have them right, then let's bring them up and do what we need to do to make them right. But to my knowledge, these setbacks have been on our books for quite a while, have they not? So if we do need to be changing them, we need to look at that as a board. If it comes to this board, or does it go straight to the alderman? I think it starts here, doesn't it?
Yeah, it would be part of the zoning requirements, so
Yeah.
that would go,
So-
any change in code would go to the planning and zoning commission.
As of right now, I would not be in favor because of this. And I think everybody on the board knows of the other incident that I'm talking about, where they're wanting to put duplexes and stuff like that, and they had it all crammed in, and they were asking for every setback that was there to be changed.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in favor of it then, and I'm not in favor of it now.
Can I have a minute to speak out loud? Is that okay? Just briefly?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, because I know I agree 100%. David and I had talked in great depth about this. So we would meet all of the setbacks for innovation in the neighboring adjoining properties, but whenever we go to self-storage, it automatically puts this 30-foot additional overlay on top of our zoning. If we were, somewhere else in Kearney besides an industrial park, I would even want to approach this issue, because I agree 100%. But in that area, those setbacks, every other business has that type of setback. And I think David and I really didn't come to any kind of conclusion, but I'm guessing at one point, someone went somewhere and wanted to put storage next to downtown or next to residential. And you have to have 30 foot if you have a building and a door, an additional aisle, but that's why we go that route with it. But if we were any other business besides storage, we'd meet all the setbacks. But since it's storage, it overlays that 30 foot on us. And from our engineers and myself, it has to be for that aisle on the outside, so people don't see people unloading stuff, stacking it there, and causing chaos and putting crud all over. But if it wasn't storage, it would meet all the setback requirements. But since it is, we're trying to meet zoning on the north side, the south side, and have a storage the storage overlay on top of it. So it's pretty difficult, but that's all I wanted to add. I'm not trying to get anything over on anyone, but that was the main reason for us putting everything on the interior, to keep all that away from everything. So that was it. But I respect everyone's opinion 100%. I understand everything.
Thank you.
Well, I feel very strong about this. We need to draw a line. I know I thought about it when on that other one. I think you know which one I'm talking about. And that's how I feel about that. I mean, I could talk about it forever, and the other thing I wanted to ask about, when you're talking about the fence just being across the front, nothing.
Well, the fence would be across the Sandbar Drive.
Mhm.
It would then connect, it would kind of follow back and connect to the edge of the building. I guess if you look on the plan, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer.
So
you have the picture.
it's going to go from the fence though will go from building to building.
Right.
From building
Okay.
1
So,
to
yeah, so-
building 6.
If you can see on the screen, Chuck, here's that south building. The fence starts at the bottom corner, goes out to the 10-foot setback, and then extends north. So it would tie back in. It's just not wrapped all the way around the site. So it would extend north here and then connect into the northwest corner.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
Somebody can't come in from
Yeah.
different direction and just walk into it.
Yeah, I didn't do a very good job of saying it would connect to the buildings, but
Okay,
It
and
would
maybe
have a
I
little
just
extra length there.
misunderstood it.
The distance from the gate to the curb, do we got any idea what it is?
45 feet. Should be pretty close to that. And we do restrict certain vehicles in there to make sure we don't have issues with that.
Well, we can do some, Mark, the gate on this drawing, the gate's a little bit closer than the curb line, and the curb line is the 30-foot line. So if we go 30 feet to property line, we generally add 11 feet.
I think
to
Mary
the
had that
curb
exact,
line.
I think it was right around, I think
Maybe
Mary Claire knows the
Mary
exact
Claire
number. It
can
should be
answer that.
like 40-some feet.
Yeah, it's just shy of 45. It's like 44 and a half or something.
from the gate to, I would say maybe the curb.
Yeah, from the gate to the back of curb. So that way there wouldn't be any overhang into the travel path.
We do that so we can fit a full-size Super Crew long bed truck and a full-size up to an 18-foot trailer, all hooked together, pulling straight in and still get to the keypad. We don't want people hanging out in the traffic.
Right, that's what we're
Floats.
concerned about is making sure that that doesn't happen.
That's the main thing. When
Mary
we get
Claire,
to the,
can you tell us the distance from the keypad to the back of curb?
I'll have to
It's
get into
shown
the
here.
drawing. Yeah, give me just a minute and I will get that for you.
and we can push that gate more up towards the radius, which I'd rather see it that way anyways, but we always hold 15 feet from gate to keypad, just so we have enough clearance for people to pull in and drive into the gate. So
David, where is the keypad? I'm not seeing it.
It's this box right here.
Oh, okay.
it looks like it's pretty.
Yeah, our
far down
mouse
there.
covers the whole thing when you put the hand.
Yeah, no, that keypad can be moved closer to the gate. It really, I think is when we made the changes to move the drive, that keypad did not get moved into the correct location. That should be like, 6 to 8 feet from the gate face. So that way they don't need to run into the gate to hit the keypad.
That is identified as a condition though, is, maneuvering to
Yeah.
have more room. We know they don't want it close enough that you hit the gate, but I think there's some room in there. You can move it and still be comfortable that we don't have a vehicle that sticks out into Sandbar Drive.
Correct. And yeah, we will check that with all the, fire truck access things and make sure that we don't have a problem with that. Yeah, right now that keypad sits 11 feet from the gate. We will move that further in. Try to get that as close to the gate as we can. And like Mark said, we can move that gate toward that curb line.
I like to get it up as close to the, the flat part as possible, so if it ices over and we don't get to it quick enough, that people aren't sliding into the gate either, so. And we do measure that, so a standard 26-foot super mover, U-Haul, if they go out and get the biggest truck they can possibly get, it should be right around 42 to 47 feet in length on that truck, so we try to put it in there so that will fit in there too, so we don't have anything hanging out and stopping the flow of traffic.
David, what is Couchman's, on their storage back in there? What are their setbacks?
I'd have to pull that up and find that. I don't know it offhand. I think it is closer than 30 feet, but it could be that was part of the code change back then when that was done. I think we're close to about the same time.
And so what do we do with like Tim Chase's out by Clear Creek? What are the setbacks out there?
I think they're quite a bit further off the road.
Well, I know he is off the road, but I mean, what would he be from the property line?
That one I do not know.
Okay. I'm echoing what Chuck said
I'd have to pull those and find things.
preliminarily, is that
Mhm.
if you change it, then, it's the same thing we did with the Quick Trip sign, We said, no, 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 it has to be, you can't have that sign that big, Quick Trip. And then, of course, the Board of Aldermen allowed something on another development to go in, and guess who was right back the next month? Quick Trip with bigger sign. So I know you remember that, and I think you guys, Kathy, you probably remember that happening too. So that's what's gonna happen if you change your setbacks here. Now, I guess the only consideration I would say is that when you're asking for better improvements, for lack of a better word, on anything that's facing the street, and maybe you want it on the north and south too, but I mean, I think you could say this is a give and take. We just required Belfonte's, isn't it, on the fireworks building, to do the same thing. Anything that was showed from 92 or 35, they had to improve it they did stone and ephes, it looks like, and it looks fine. I don't care what it looks like on the other two sides, because nobody's ever going to see that. I mean, even Bill Woods on his deal improved his building, which blocks his storage back there. So, and I guess I misunderstood when you called me. I thought the way you described this plan was flipped, that the long building was along the front. So all we were going to see was the back of the one building and nothing. You couldn't, basically it would just be the back of one building and you couldn't see it, but I see that's not the case.
Oh, yeah, you got north and south and then the one that faces.
But in my opinion, if you're going to grant the setbacks to go in like this, then I think the front of all these buildings have got to be improved. And I know you want to put a door in the end of them.
We have no way to improve them easily. That's,
well, then
all of those buildings, just like the Bulldog store.
Why can't you put the doors on either side?
Oh, I apologize. On either side of.
Every one of these buildings, 2, 3, and 4,
okay,
and 5, you're proposing, if I'm looking at your picture, because we don't have an elevation, so we really don't know what it's going to look like.
Let me grab this.
All we have is some pictures of somebody else's storage building that it's supposed to look like.
Those pictures?
Yeah, here we go.
Those are mine. Those are the same building.
But still, I mean,
okay.
Everybody else that brings a project in here gives us a front elevation, whether of whatever it is.
I understand.
Every house that's built here has a front elevation.
We wanted to get the actual elevations. The only way we can get them is by ordering the plans.
But we're guessing at what this is going to look like by looking at your pictures here, correct?
That's the exact buildings, what it will look like.
Okay. So I'm saying, you're saying you're going to put doors all along that end, and that's the end of the building, correct?
Yeah, so the only place that, let me show you on here, that there's going to be doors that we have on there, Ken. So this is kind of, can I approach up there?
Sure.
Is that okay? Yeah. Up here on this side, and this is the old plan, but the driveway's just moved down. So you're referring to those four buildings right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the only place that we would have those doors that would face. The reason why I thought it wouldn't be a huge challenge is we're gonna have a 7-foot wrought iron fence with.
You can see right through it.
Is it the same wrought iron fence that you used here?
Yes, it's
You can see right through it. I mean, if it wasn't for a giant berm.
but we have to have ornamentals in front of it too. We're putting trees and grasses in front of that. So I don't know how much Mary Claire.
I'm just saying, if we go by what we just did with the Belfonte people, and what we've asked for everywhere else usually is anything that can be seen from the highway. In this case, I'm just saying, just do it from Sandbar Drive. But you're saying you got to put doors in the end of the building, so that
We don't have to. We can just keep them metal on the ends and try.
That's what I don't want, is the metal on the ends.
With the wainscot on the bottom of it. That's why I stay away from it, because I actually think that doors, the way that setup is actually nicer looking than a metal end or a a blank end that they're all the same, whether it's the wainscot or the rock on there.
I
I
guess
think
that's just a matter of opinion then.
okay. Yeah, just depends on which way you're looking at it or your opinion. I understand.
I just, every one of our other storage facilities are either blocked or they're someplace where nobody cares what they look like or they're far away. This is gonna be right next to a bank, and the bank, I guess, owns the ground right next to it. So possibly another building similar to that. I don't understand, I guess, if
Oh, we're on the other side, because that empty lot that you're talking about.
if what you're telling me is that the zoning restrictions are less further down the road to the north, is that what you're saying? Is that correct, David? The setbacks are less further north?
Not for self-storage facilities, no.
Oh, so it doesn't matter on self?
No.
Okay.
The way self-storage is a use that can be either in commercial or industrial. But
Okay.
there is a specific section for self-storage. You go to a different section of the code and there's some requirements specific to self-storage in addition to commercial or industrial.
Before the purchase of this property in 2020, when we got permission from Walsworth to go through this, M1, when David and the survey and a couple other people were talking, it was stated it was a 10-foot setback on M1 as far as that property goes.
Well, somebody didn't
So-
do their research very good.
I was asked, Mark, I was asked for industrial zoning classification. That was sent.
Understood,
I followed up after that with.
Yeah, no, I understand.
It said 30 feet for self-storage.
Yeah, after we purchased it, we got in the situation, now we have the storage overlay on top of it. And that was our intention to purchase it, to do the storage there. Because I don't know what we're gonna do with it if we don't do that. So we purchased it and now we own the property, but we've got the 30-foot overlay. I can get rid of the setbacks, y'all, real quick. And I don't want doors facing the outside. I want it to look nice. I want it to be a good, clean look in a safe facility in this area. I don't want to own anything that's going to ever be a problem for the city. We've had very, very good success. If we turn the buildings around, we get rid of the setback issues, but then you have a drive aisle, and all that stuff, and people can walk right in. Theft's going to occur, another problem's going to occur.
I don't have any problem I'll go along with you on the setback thing, but this is a give and take thing. So if we're going to give you the setbacks, you got to give us no doors facing the road.
That's fine. We don't have to, those end cap doors down there anyways, they're not really that profitable. But I want to make sure that we can actually get a material, because right now, the material that we get for those ends of those buildings, whether it's stone or an Ichiha, the Ichiha is what we prefer to put on there, but everything's extremely difficult to get. And when we design those buildings, we have to design it for whatever it
When you
is.
talked to me on the phone, you said the concrete was your problem.
It's going to go up,
Get it in
yes.
before the concrete went in. You can still do that, and you
Yeah.
can get all that other material ordered. It may take longer for your project, but at least you solved your concrete problem by getting everything poured.
Yeah, our concrete, it's going to be fine. It's all locked in and it's good. It's just we haven't had any success as far as the facade or the brick or whether it's real or whether it's.
I'm not familiar with those being problems, but
It never was
surprise
before.
me if they are. But anyway, so
Yeah, it's never been a problem. In 2020, we could make a call and we could have it, in 2 weeks. Now it's 6 months, 9 months, and
There's a lot of things that are 6 months now.
I know.
But, so I'm not disputing your word on that. I'm just saying, what you conveyed to me on the phone was that you had to get this started and you had to get the concrete poured before the concrete price went up.
Yeah, we've got till September 1st.
And you can get that done as long as you can find the labor to pour it, I guess.
Yeah, we got it.
So that doesn't, the ephes material or whatever you want to use on the end really doesn't enter into the holdup then. It holds you up.
Yeah.
I guess I understand that, but that doesn't change what or what I'm asking for, or what I think we should have.
The building company requires everything up front before they'll start production of the building. that I have to tell them exactly what's going on right then, or they will not start production. But I can make it around it. If this is the worst
So
problem, I
you-
can figure it out.
Well, get somebody else to pour the concrete.
It's not really the concrete that's the problem. I just have to give it, it's fine.
I-
If
I
that's
don't
what you guys
understand what
need,
you're
I will.
I mean, I know a little bit about putting these buildings together. And okay, so you got a general that's doing your buildings.
I do everything on those. Yeah, well, no, Hiram Jones out of Excelsior. He'll be part of the project, and the Tracky guys from Wisconsin will come
Well, so
down.
the building people have anything to do with pouring your concrete?
No, they're not gonna
Okay.
pour anything as far as that
So-
goes.
You're telling me that the building guy, the steel building company, whatever this is,
Tracky.
okay, they won't order the building for you because the EFS stucco stone material is 6 to 9 months out?
No, that's not the issue. It's
Okay.
the issue is being able to tell them how the wainscot is gonna be set up and what material is
You
gonna be
can
used.
tell them what it's gonna be.
I hope it's gonna be that, the Nietzsche or whatever, but I can order them, I can definitely pre-order them with the metal wainscoting on there to make sure we've got something there. And I could change it out, it's not a big deal. I don't wanna change the whole building, but I could change it if need be. I'm trying to keep the cost down, but
I understand that. But, I understand everything that you're saying. But if we're gonna be true to what we've done in the past, and we're gonna try to get by these setbacks that Chuck doesn't wanna get by, we gotta have,
a reason to do it, yeah.
yeah, and
Well, let me ask you this question, because this may help out quite a bit on the whole deal. We don't have to have that particular fence. There are other fences we could put a 2-inch spacing on. We could put a cut proof. That fence it's $100,000 to go 400 foot, but we can make put a fence there that will block, from you being able to easily see through it. It's from Montage Commercial
I
Plus.
thought the whole idea of being able to see in there was the security part of it.
We've got 64 cameras inside. We're able to see. That's not a problem.
Okay.
But
Then
it's
I
still-
go back to the very first
Yeah.
thing is that I thought you were putting the long building along the front.
Oh, as far as like the 280, I'm sorry if I miscommunicated
That's the
that
way I understood
improperly.
it. When I got the plan, I could tell that was not the way.
Yeah, I did not know you understood it that way. I had no clue.
It doesn't matter. I don't understand things sometimes. Anyway, we've
That
talked
fence
a
could
lot.
be changed to a 90% or 100% blockage, but I don't want it to
I
look horrible either, so.
I don't either. I don't think there's anything wrong with the fence the way it is. I just think that if we're gonna overdo the setbacks, when somebody comes and asks me, how come you let that guy do this? I'm gonna say, because he had to do all these improvements that face Jack Bar or Sandbar Drive, and you didn't.
Well, everybody else in there has.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Everybody else in there has done.
Does
Well-
Mary Claire, do you know what the elevation is on that property compared to Sandbar? Were we holding it up quite a bit? Because I thought we were gonna keep it pretty elevated to kind of stop that, but I don't know the answer to that question. But if we have to keep doors off that end of the building, we'll do it. If I have to put rock work on the end of the building, I'll do it. We try to take pride in keeping everything super clean for the customers, not using the wood construction stain, because the bottom line is no matter how clean I keep it, I will still have people that don't care, and they will cause problems there. And it's tough sometimes to clean up after people,
I
but
understand the public just as well as you do.
I know you've been doing it a lot longer than I have.
And,
So,
all of us, Chuck deals with the public every day, Chaston did. When he had the grocery store, we know exactly what you're saying. But I think that for me, if you want me to go along with the setbacks, then we gotta have the stuff that faces Bar Drive. It's gotta be no doors, and it's gotta be some kind of hard improved surface, whether it's.
if that's a contingency, then yeah, I'm fine with it. I'll have to check into the pricing, but if that's what you put down, that's what I have
Well,
to
that's what
follow.
And I think the Board of Aldermen need to see a good picture of what it's supposed to look like from Sandbar Drive, because these, this is, here's, what it looks like somewhere else.
Sure.
Okay, that wouldn't fly on any other buildings that we come and see. They've got elevations of all the sides and everything.
Yeah, I understood. I tried from the manufacturer. They didn't do that. Mary Claire and I did talk a little bit about it. I don't know if they had anyone there at Wallace that could get, a rendering, a color rendering of what everything looked like. But I would love to have that as well. I mean, I know what
Would be glad to do it for you.
Yeah, I know what it looks like in my mind, but I know for you all,
Yeah.
it's hard to picture what I've got going on upstairs. So, but I
Sorry, I took up a lot of time.
No.
It's important.
Yep.
David, if this was a warehouse building, would the setback be different?
They
That's
could,
what you're saying?
they could be. Yes, they could be different. The front setback for the building, now, a lot of times they have parking out in front of the buildings, but the front setback is, I believe, 25 feet in industrial zoning. The side yard setback is 20 feet.
And these are 30,
Well, they have
30 and
20 feet along the north, 10 feet along the east, 30 feet along the south.
that's what they would want.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
I see a lot of 10s in here.
10 along the back.
I'm the 10 on the fence. I will move the fence. We just can't. I want to make the water mitigation tank much deeper so we can put the fence closer. That's what I'd like to see. I didn't know a fence was considered a structure in Kearney because
In the so in the industrial and commercial districts, it identifies self-storage as a permitted use, but it
Right.
says as a permitted use, but you must refer to other special requirements. When you go to the other special requirement section, it says it requires a 30-foot setback
Yeah.
for self-storage of all buildings, all drive aisles and driveways, and of all fences. The way I looked at this particular fence is, I think typically the self-storage fence would be a chain link fence of some sort. And so, yeah, having a 30-foot requirement for a chain link fence makes a lot of sense. In this case, it's more of a decorative fence, black, good for security, but it looks nicer. So I thought letting it encroach into that 30-foot self-storage setback was an okay thing because it's a nicer fence. But under the self-storage requirements, it says all fence, all buildings, all drive aisles must maintain a 30-foot setback.
I think I'm gonna agree with Kent. I can get by the setbacks in an industrial park. But I think we need to make sure as a city, we've asked the other building owners to do certain things to make it look nice out there. You're next to a bank that's brick, well, two banks that are well finished, yeah. So I think that I have to agree with Kent that if we're going to give you the setbacks, then we're gonna need to have something too, and that would be like rock front or something that looks more permanent than the metal.
Sure, no, and I'm fine with that. They can give me the material. I would love to have it on there. And Mary Claire, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Are you did you ever figure anything out on whether we can give an actual rendering of what it would look like? Those buildings, the way it's set up in the elevation? I knew we talked about it, but I never really heard the conclusion if you had one that could do it or not.
Well, yes, I heard that they could do it. They'd need, information from the building guy, for, basically his design of his building. It is something that they can create.
Okay, yeah, that's.
Let me ask you this, because I've never seen a project where even in a deal like this, where this building, the steel building company's gonna build everything, you just ask them to put gyp sheeting on those ends and exterior surface supplied by other. I've seen it on thousands of plans that's just the way it is. And you go find somebody to do it.
And that's how they do it with the wainscoting. They ask us what the height of the wainscot is gonna be. They go ahead and put that skirt around the base of it, and then whatever the product. David and I looked at the do you have any of that information?
No,
Because
but I can pull
we
it out.
actually looked at the product we wanted to put on there.
Well, you keep saying wainscot, that's only a third of the problem. I mean, then you got the
Oh,
rest of
the entirety of the building all the way.
So,
No.
but if you got a problem with the steel building company, you just tell them, you just put some gyp sheeting on that end and I'll take care of the rest of it.
Yeah, they said they could leave it open and they'll just leave, steel studs there
Yeah,
and we
you just
connect
leave
to
it
it.
open, and then whoever your contractor is that does your exterior finish can do it all, actually.
Yeah, that's what we were gonna try to do on the wainscoting or any of it with that, but that was the problem we started running into, was sourcing the material. Now, if it's something that, if there's any companies around here that can get it for me easier, I'd
Some
love
names
it.
if you need them.
Okay. Yeah, because we usually, all the storage we've done, we haven't had to do anything like this because of where they've been located at. So this is, I'm pretty familiar with most of it, but we haven't had to do this on these buildings before. And that's been the only problem that we've really run into so far. And then with the whole sourcing the material, that has become very, very challenging recently. Everything else is easy except for that portion of it so far.
And I can talk to you afterwards, but
Sure.
it doesn't even have to be that kind of material, because I use something different on the building over at Smithville, and I think it looks good, so.
I'm open to anything. I'm fine with it.
I'll talk to you about that
Yeah, yeah.
afterwards if you want.
Any other discussion?
Just that I'd like the other two board members to consider what I have a problem with. We
I
had
definitely
somebody
have.
change theirs,
Yeah.
not 2 months ago.
Right.
Now we got this one that wants an exception. What are you gonna have next month or 2 months, 3 months down the road? Something to think about. That's all I want to say.
Any other discussion or
Well,
questions?
it looks to me like there's still several things we want. The elevations. I'm kind of torn between, on the setbacks. If it was unless I'm just not understanding, if it was a building, quote unquote, one piece building, setbacks would be different. Closer to what they're asking.
Then we need to look at our ordinances.
Yeah,
and change them. But as of right now, this is what's on your book as an ordinance.
And that's what we're going to follow.
That's what you're supposed to.
If there was a geological reason, there was something that prevented a 30-foot setback, and they needed to be closer to shift the building, I could see making an allowance. I don't know why we're making it smaller. I mean, we've got laws on the books, ordinances on the books, and somebody put them there for a purpose.
Well, to move this along, I'll make a motion and we'll see what. I will move that we go along with staff recommendations on the setbacks, and that the developer will improve all surfaces that face Sandbar Drive to a word you want to make here is, but I don't want to lock it in on certain things. So anyway, no doors will face Sandbar Drive, and all those surfaces are improved to a non-metal type surface. That make any sense?
Can I maybe ask for a little clarification? All solid or a wainscot or something to break up the elevation?
It can be, I don't care if it's got a wainscot or what. In my motion, it said any surface facing Sandbar Drive has be a non-metal type surface.
And that would fall under where additional revisions, if recommended by P and Z. Some of your language in.
Can I second it? Since I'm not,
Just roll votes.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, then I'm gonna second that.
Okay.
So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
So this will go to the Board of Aldermen at the next meeting. which-
Yeah, the plan would be to go to the Board of Aldermen next week because we had a rezoning, so it was posted. But I think that the board will need to see what those facade improvements are before. So
Mhm.
if we don't have something by Wednesday on that, then maybe it goes to the Board of Aldermen for the initial public hearing, but then get tabled to the following meeting, which would be, next week's meeting is the 18th. The following meeting
Should
is
be
August
August.
5th, maybe.
No, it's not that far. There's a calendar.
August 8th minus, I think it would be August 1st.
I'll just try to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
it done
August
next
1st.
week.
No, it would be this week.
Oh,
This week
by
for
this,
next
this
week,
Wednesday,
yes.
gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. So,
And then it would be, if it was tabled, it'd be August 1st.
gotcha, okay.
Yeah, August 1st is the next meeting after that.
So by Wednesday.
Okay, there being no old business this evening, we'll open it up for commission discussion. Anyone have anything to discuss?
Building right down here
Yes,
in front of the,
the James Henry Salon building?
yeah,
Okay.
I understand they tore down more of it than they were supposed to.
That's what I
Yes.
thought. Yeah.
They did. They did resubmit. They resubmitted updated building plans. A structural engineer looked at it. The architect looked at those and they made some recommendations for the remaining portion of the building to support the roof.
Did that come back through here and it was a meeting I might have missed or anything, or was it
No.
supposed to?
No, we did go through a site
The original,
plan here.
I know that.
Right. So the front facade is not going to change. The outline of the building that was proposed remains the same. It's just that the inside of the building, instead of just being, the addition being just attached to the back of it with a couple of holes for, like a doorway, they had to change kind of their floor plan on the
I
interior.
couldn't believe it when
As
I
a
drove
result
by.
of
I
it.
thought, that is
Three
not
walls.
what we.
Yeah.
Well, they would have
Right.
been completely torn down if we hadn't
Right.
stopped them.
But
City
what
staff stopped them.
what we will see as the end product is the same thing that was approved by planning and zoning. Just
Why did
more
they
to
do
get
that?
there.
It was a
Who knows?
subcontractor.
Who knows?
At that point, you just got one wall left. Why not just knock the whole thing down and do it right to start with?
Well, that would have meant coming back through.
Well, okay.
So it was either a miscommunication between the general contractor, talking to his sub, or his sub not understanding what he said. They brought a piece of equipment that was bigger than
I got a
probably
little
what they
happy
needed.
with the wrecking ball, I think.
So far, it's been going okay. He and the owner of the property are getting along. Right now, it seems like it's all moving okay. We were worried that something might happen and, who knows what. She could sue him, but he's trying to make it right for her, so. And so far, he's doing that.
Well, what about Arby's? I see they got it cleaned up, so that looks good.
We received a site plan application last Friday, so that should be on future agenda.
Good.
They had a demolition, we went through a demolition permit. There was some asbestos tiles there, so they had to do some special removal for that. Now, that was interesting too. That was going to be a fire investigation that turned into a demolition without a demolition permit. That wasn't very good either, yeah. The actual demolition company that did the removal was a Kearney company.
I guess before it
Well,
was
it's not
ever,
Kansas City company, but the owners live in Kearney, both of them.
well, before it ever got the call that there was a fire, we were standing up there, and we could just see the white smoke coming out of that hood vent. And I said to the guys, there's something going on down there. And it was coming out good.
Yeah, fire investigator, they took a trailer with some items on it, so don't know the results of that, but all we're worried about is getting the building demolished and removed and cleaned up.
Yeah.
What about the duplexes or condos or whatever they were next to the?
I don't think it is a dead project. I did message, someone asked about it last time, was that you, Chuck?
No,
Somebody asked me about it.
I think it might have been 2 times back, because I wasn't here last.
Yeah, well, I
last
meant, I didn't necessarily mean last meeting, just
Yeah,
someone else had asked me
Yeah,
about
I
it.
asked about it.
Yeah, okay, maybe you can't, but I emailed the guy and talked to him, and he asked what his next steps were, and so I told him he's got to prepare his engineering drawing for the little, he's gonna extend sewer in between the 2 buildings, and I said, talk to your architect and your engineer and get those plans ready, and I've not seen anything yet. I don't think it's a dead project. I think maybe he was just looking to get the financing or make sure he had the financing in place to do that project. I don't think it's dead. When the board approved that development plan, he's got a year, a year before he would need to come back through for a reapproval, and I think that was
Getting real close.
it maybe get close, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope it happens. I don't think it's dead. I hope it happens.
Move for German.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.